What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Dose of Dano TV. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just so grateful that you're going to spend an hour of your time today to really take your life in the positive direction and to hear about content that you cannot find anywhere else, because every guest that comes on the show on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, every time they come on, they speak to an audience of people that are willing and able and receptive to listening, so they can take these golden nuggets, these great pieces of advice, and to implement them into their own life, going into the weekend, just to make sure that they're living to their full potential. And as we're about to talk about, their optimal state consistently. So thank you for coming on today. Thank you, Mark Hattas. I appreciate you stepping in and coming on for an opportunity to be on Weekly Dose of Dano TV, to share all of your experiences and all of your knowledge, because this is the stuff that the world needs now more than ever. So if you're watching, make sure that you're leaving a comment under the Weekly Dose of Dano page on Facebook, because that's the only way that I'm able to see your comments. Big shout out to the Positivity Posse as well. I know everybody's still taking their time to come in and leave their questions and their comments. So I want to give a shout out to you guys. And before we get started for today, you already know what we have to do. We're not going to use the little life instruction book for today. We're going to put that to the side, just because I don't feel that today is the day for that. Even though we do it for most weeks, it's just not going to do that. But we have some other things that we need to talk about before we bring Mark on. And Mark, this is one of the things that I can't wait for you to talk about, because I think you kind of have the perfect flow and the perfect energy to speak on this. And here we go. Right here, I'm going to show you guys this picture. When I first saw it, I always thought it was kind of like, okay, like, you know, it's just a picture, and okay, there's a message behind it. But let me know what you think about this picture. And that was a little bit ago when I thought that, but now I really do believe that this is a very important picture that everybody needs to see, only because the other day I had, you know, a pretty serious encounter about some of the things, about the topics that are going on in the world. So here it is. Here's the picture. So right here we have two people, and on one side, one person sees a 6, and on the other side, with their perspective, they see a 9. Now, I'm going to leave this on the screen for a few seconds, so all you hear is my voice, and I know you're very, very annoyed that you can't see my face right now because you miss it so much. No, I'm just kidding. This picture, now more than ever, means a lot. And if you don't understand why, I'll give you my perspective, and Mark is going to come on to talk about his perspective as well. So this picture is very important because when you have an idea, right, or you have a topic or anything that you may be going through, when you tell yourself something, whether it's true or not, you will 100% start to believe it. Has there ever been a time where, you heard maybe gossip about yourself and you told yourself, this person started it, I know they're the source behind it, they were the originator, and as you start to do more digging, maybe that gossip didn't even exist at all, or the person that you thought and you swore up and down that they were the person that created it had no idea about it, they weren't even the creator at all. This happens so much where this person is telling himself, hey, that's a 666, that's a 999, the other person saying that's a 999. You really have to take yourself into a third person's perspective and realize that there are so many different ways to look at life. I mean, all the person has to do is really start to take a few steps to the left, and he'll say, oh, wait, well, it's not a 6 anymore. What could it be? And if they were to do a complete 180, they can see that another perspective is available. So in my opinion, I don't believe that you can be right 100% of the time. What you can do is make a best guess, but you have to look at everything from a 360-degree view. And Lauren Michaels Harris talks about it the best. He goes top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, side to side, corner to corner, corner to corner. But you have to realize that there's so many different perspectives out there, and not everybody's going to agree on the same things. So at the very least, we need to have a degree of respect. Okay, there we are again. You need to have a degree of respect when talking to everybody, because there are certain topics out there, as we all know, that are highly sensitive, and everybody's just, hello, Jeanette. Everybody's just very sensitive, so we have to do our best just to make sure that we don't offend anybody, because we have to see the different perspectives that are out there. And here's just one more thing, because we have to get Mark on, and there's so much to talk about. Here's another picture that I just decided to throw in for today, just to give you kind of put a smile on your face, and here it is. Be kind, even if no one is looking. Right here, we see somebody that you never know what that person is going through right there, sleeping. They might have had a sleepless night. There can be a plethora of things that this person has gone through, but you can see the foot is right there holding up the suitcase to make sure that the person can get a nice rest, or that it's just all about being selfless and helping one another, because what we put out into the universe is 100% what we get back. So we're going to bring Mark on the show because we have so many things to talk about, and I really can't wait for you guys to hear Mark's perspective on everything, because he is about to blow your minds, and I just can't wait. Mark, what are you doing over there, Marcus? Stop trying to get everybody into their optimal states. That's not on the show. It's time to get on the show. Mark, how's it going?
It's going well. You're funny, man.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And let me start off this episode just to say thank you. I really do appreciate you coming on today, taking an hour out of your time to really help so many different types of people that are watching this right now and that are a part of the Positivity Posse. Thank you for dropping that in there, Jeanette. Mark, first and foremost, how's your day going?
It's going well. I've got a special treat today. It's my mom's 75th birthday this year, and everybody's finally coming to town. So I've got 2 sisters coming in from California. Another couple sisters that are here. We're gathering for dinner. My folks will be there. It's going to be a great time.
Awesome. And I know, all right, I'm just going to spill the beans. We had this discussion. I already asked them that question when we were in the green room. But one of the things that I mentioned is, Mark, your mother is turning 75. And think about all the life experience and all the opportunities and things that she's seen is absolutely incredible. And we were having this discussion about age, and you said that when you were younger, you would always think, oh, I can't wait till I get older. And there was one word that you used in there that really stuck with me, and it was the word adequacy. And you say that, oh, well, when I get older, then I'll start to feel that term of adequacy. At what age or at what point in your life does that really start to take place?
Well, I think there's a possibility that people, can do that, from the time they're born and through their upbringing, potentially. Not saying a lot of people do, and I certainly didn't. For me, it was around 40. And it's like there, and we'll get into it a little bit, but, right now I recognize the difference between me today at 48 and what I was pre-40 is just night and day. It's like I'm the same person, but there's just such a calm and a strength and a confidence, where prior to that, I felt that I was like a duck that looked calm on the surface, but underwater was just paddling as much as I could. And that's where a lot of inadequacy, I think was rooted in that thought that I had to be something different than I was.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think that takes place? Because I personally think when it comes to communities and through the media, that we're programmed from a very young age to not live in our truth and not to live in our, as you call it, our optimal state. What are some of the reasons that people don't live in their optimal state?
So the number one reason, and we can unpack this a little bit, Dano, but the number one reason is denial of the true nature of who we are. And at some point, we chose to turn our back on ourselves in order to feel safe or to get what we wanted, attention, love, what have you. And there are many dynamics that could have come from a parent or sibling or, somebody in our life that was an authority. And we chose to do what they wanted us to do, rather than what it was that we knew for us might be the optimal thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And I know from my experience going to college for the few years that I did, that's what, like, the number one thing that I would hear is everybody's choosing their career path to appease their parents. Oh, you're going to be a doctor. Oh, you're going to be a lawyer. But what about the people that have this artistic ability, like you said, and to live in their optimal state? You can't live your life in accordance to appease other people, because then it's not really your life. It's other people taking the reins, and Mark, at what point in your life, and this is going to be, I know this is going to require a degree of transparency, and I know you're just going to come in the clutch right now. What point in your life did you determine, okay, that's enough. I know what I know to be true, and this is what I'm going to do to pursue it?
So what I would say, let's go even further back from that moment, because there's a catalyst, and the catalyst was a mental health crisis that occurred for me. I was 38 years old. I had just sold my company, and I started to experience manic episodes that would bring about delusional states. And I mean, literally, like walls moving and hearing voices and things that I didn't understand. And some of it felt very real. Like I would hear certain people's thoughts, and then they would speak exactly what I heard before they spoke it.
Wow.
And it was sort of interesting and intriguing. But then it escalated until my wife called the paramedics and had me hauled out of the home. Back in September of 2011. So it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the issue that I discovered was just this. What was happening was, like, the core of my being, Dano, was saying what I had created for myself was no longer tolerable. The lies and the masks and the distortions and the pleasing other people, as you pointed out, it wasn't going to work for me anymore. So once Now, I didn't have that consciously at the time. It was just sort of a mystery, like what is going on? And through a number of years, I navigated the mental health system. Thankfully, I'm extremely healthy today, and I'm on the other side of that, have been for 6-7 years or so. And now what has occurred is there's this joy and there's this confidence and there's this clarity. It's as if I've come back online. Imagine those nights, the old computers that didn't have internet access. They were only capable of so much, but once they came online, it opened up a whole new world. And I think that's what was occurring for me, is this whole new world was opening up, and I didn't know how to navigate entirely because I was still fighting. Did I want to hang on to the idea that I needed to please who it was I thought I should be, or was I willing to let that go, which feels like a death? To let go of something that we had hung so tightly to, like you were saying with the 6-9 thing, right? In the beginning, for the person seeing the 6 to let go of attachment to it being what it is that they see, and to say, hey, well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're seeing it differently. Show me what you're seeing. Right. And then that would lead to maybe that other person seeing the 9 to say, well, hey, why don't you just walk over here and see what you see? There's no more argument, because then it's obvious. But it requires letting go. It requires opening up. And that death process, that spiritual recovery or restoration, is such a beautiful thing. And it was somewhere, I would say, within the last 6 years that I knew I was getting to that place of being fully online with my optimal being state. And then I would have glimpses of it. It would just be these flashes of, oh, wow. I have these miraculous experiences happening more and more and more and more. And now it's so consistent that I started teaching other people. I started coaching other people when they're just, out of sorts. I teach tools, and we teach tools as a team to support people really coming online with who it is they truly are. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful shift.
And yeah, I love that. So Mark, just to let you know, I mean, I don't want to reveal anybody's age over here or make anybody feel bad watching, but you said 20 years ago, and I thought, where was I at 20 years ago? I was only 4 years old at the time. So that's a big gap from that 10, that 20 years. But that truly is amazing, because there's people that are out there that they live until their last day when they're on their deathbed, and they never come to these realizations that, I don't have to work on anything. Everything in my life is okay. And if you truly believe that that's the case, then I commend you. There's more power to you. But there's a lot of work that we need to do for that self-transformation and that personal development. Let's say if somebody wants to know more about themselves, or they want to take that step in the positive direction. In my opinion, I think self-awareness has to be the first step. But would you be able to give some insight as to what you think the first step is to say, okay, today is the day where I change my life forever?
All right. So everybody watching, you can do this right now. So it doesn't take, it's not, a lot of times people can overcomplicate it. So let's give the simplest way to do this. So try this. If you're watching and you want to really surrender into the optimal state, it's simple, and it requires you declaring it. It requires you saying, hey, you know what? And not that you have to use these words. You can use whatever words come to you. But here would be an example. You know what? I've lived my life to this point in a certain way. And I found that, it's not all going in the direction I'd like it to go. So I'm going to let go of what I've been doing and allow for the essence, the core, beautiful spirit in me to come online, to really come forward, instead of my brain and how it's been trained being the leader in my life. I'm going to surrender and allow for something in me to come up through me, to teach. Because that wise teacher, that wise master, if you will, lives in every single person, right? And without getting into too much kind of religious kind of stuff, but just to keep it in a way that allows for anybody to have access to this, whatever the core of your being is, it's pure, it's clear, it knows what's best for you. And so how do you get in tune with that? the number one step is to ask. Say, hey, what would it take for me to live as my optimal being?
Mm-hmm.
And then release anything that might be conflicting that direction for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could do it today, and it doesn't mean that you just turn the lights on in your room and they're going to stay on, because if the tendency is for you to be off because you've got all these patterns and behaviors, you may need to remind yourself consistently. So you might want to throw something in your calendar and just say, hey, every morning and 5 times a day, I'm going to remind myself, hey, what would it take for me to live in my optimal state? And you can watch how you're going to find your life change just with that. Now, we have programs and we've got lots of different ways to support people in having consistent flow of resources and tools. But it starts with making a declaration that that's the direction you want for your life, to let go of the way you've been doing it.
Yeah, and that truly is very powerful. I mean, when I first started my spiritual journey and to grow into the person that I want to be, it really did start with the power of your words, just the way that we say certain things. Like, even till this day, I still slip up and I say, oh, hell yeah, or hell yeah, that's good, or whatever it may be. How does that even make sense? If something is good, how can you throw in the word hell? And that's just a really basic example. But there's words and phrases and sentences that we use every day that, another one being, oh, I'm too broke to afford this, or I'm too fat to do this, or I'm too skinny. It doesn't matter. The words that we use, that's why they call it spelling. It's because we cast spells on ourselves, whether it's true or not. Now, there was one term, Mark, that you used, and it says the optimal state. Is that the same for everybody, or what is it, varying from person to person? What does that really mean, optimal state?
So, yeah, it's interesting. And there is an evolution, I think, for each person to experience their optimal state. It evolves. Let's just say that the purest state of you knows everything, and you're in tune, you're online, you're really just right in the flow of your life. That would be kind of an example of what an optimal state may be. So let's say, as an easy example, I have my wife and I have 5 children that range from 12 up to 23. And so if one of our kids does something and it's not what we want, and we see this in the world today, but just at our home, like, our children do something that we think is outside of their best interest. If I'm out of my optimal being state, I may thrust at them with anger, frustration, or tell them how wrong they are, and come at them in a way that's really going to end up being more negative and destructive.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can recognize what I want and that there's a charge there, and I can use some simple tools to release that charge and recognize that, what's most important? What's most important always is to be in my optimal state. Because when I'm in my optimal state, I'm going to make good choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take care of anything that's in the way of me being in that state first. And then, even though, 5 out of 5 parents are going to address the situation differently, even in their optimal state, they'll do it optimally for them and their child.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of the approach that I was exempling before with maybe the yelling or the telling them what to do, there may be this inspired wisdom that says, hey, you know what? It appears, and let's say you were my kid for the example, it appears, Dano, that we don't agree on something, and I want to understand, like, your thoughts on this. Like, what's motivating you? What are you reading about and hearing about? I want to understand where you're coming from on this, and open that space. Like, let's say that in my optimal state, that's the best I can do. Mm-hmm. Now, just like any skill, it doesn't mean that I can't do it better, right? But at least I'm in the optimal state first, and then I can recognize, okay, did that work well? Did that help us come together, or did it tear us apart? And I would say that if something is tearing us apart, that's not optimal. Like, something's off, Like
Mhm.
there's missing information possibly, or people are anchored in their position, and there's dividedness. When we come together and something brings us into conversation and into a healthy relationship, then we're going to come to an outcome that we can respect. And ultimately, I would respect the sovereignty of my child. Let's say, it's one of my, older children. It's like, hey, if that's something, now that I understand where you're coming from, would you be open to hearing where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
And they are, or they're not. But
Yeah.
at that point, there's so much love present that they're probably going to be more open. Like, sure, yeah, okay, well, what do you have to say? And the delivery of it, even though it might be the same words I might have said, but the energy of it is going to be more from a nurturing, loving place, giving them the sovereignty to make a choice best for them.
Mhm.
And that's something that's really important for humanity, is that we maintain our agency, our sovereignty of our humanity, that we get to make our own choices for what's in our best interest. And if we do that in our true best interest, in an aligned state, then it will be in the best interest of our family. It will be in the best interest of our community. It will be in the best interest of our society, because we're doing it in a state that's not for our own gain or benefit. Though we might gain, we might benefit. It's coming through from that source connection, if you will, that allows for us to really be making better choices for our life.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate that, only because if you decide to shut somebody out and not hear their perspective at all, you may miss out on an opportunity to learn something new and to change your perspective to take you to that next level. What if you never hear anything that anybody has to say, or even give them that level of respect? They could say something, I think you just mentioned this too, that might take them to an optimal state, but they'll never get to that if they never listen. And I think when it comes to listening too, a lot of people don't understand that you're not supposed to listen for rebuttal. Instead, listen for comprehension. Because if you're listening for a rebuttal, are you really listening? Yes, the words are being processed inside of your brain, but when you don't take that chance, or you don't take that opportunity to listen for comprehension, you're already in your head, or you're trying to form a rebuttal. So you can't form a rebuttal on one side and listen at the same time, because then it starts to get jumbled. So I think that's also a key ingredient as well, as far as communication, and really breaking it down to its core. So right now we're halfway through the episode already. It's been flying by like crazy. But we have to show, Mark actually has a book out called Prisoner of War, and we have a little. He's actually a sponsor of ours as well. Not like officially, but we do have his commercial. And we have to play, his commercial and a few others. But Mark, when we come back, I remember we said in the green room that we're going to go through some exercises about my experience. And when we come back from this break, everybody, I just want you to understand that this isn't going to be about me. This is going to be about us, about the positivity posse. So just because I'm throwing in my own experience that's happening, and Mark is going to help us with our simple tools and, different ways that we can handle different opportunities or different experiences, you can throw in the stuff that you're going through as well, because this is a community thing and this is a collective. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you, Mark, again. So I'm going to play your commercial right now, and don't go anywhere. Make sure you're sharing the stream. And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Except I received this insight about a title called Prisoner of War. The book.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Now, when I look at this stream, and this is for my positivity posse, I better see the hearts and the likes spam for Mark because he's such an amazing guest. And Mark, I know you just you had that commercial and you just came out with this book, but here is a question that I need to know. Why do you feel the need to help people? And that's it may be a pretty complex question, but what makes you want to help people? Why do you need to do it?
Well, I wouldn't say that. The way I see it, Dano, is when someone goes through life and discovers, let's say you discovered a new food and you love it and it's nourishing and it's like so healthy, and you can relate to how interesting it would be to share it with others, right? Like, hey, come over to my house. I'm going to make you this new food. It's so great, and there's a joy in that. There's such a joy in having others experience, what you've experienced. And so I experienced going from struggling and pushing and really working hard most of my life. And I became very successful from the worldly standards of building and selling a company and doing quite well. And yet there was this stress that I realized that leaders often carry with them, and all people do. But I recognize that it's time to shift that. It's time to shift, and there's an easier way. And so having discovered an easier way, just like that meal, it's like, hey, I want to let people know about it. Now, they don't have to do it, but it's sort of an invitation, like, hey, I've got this thing and it works. And if you guys want to participate, we're going to do an exercise that'll example part of it with Dano in a minute. But there's an element of joy that comes from supporting people being at their very best. And when I see someone go from struggle to a shift in their life to experiencing more joy, more clarity, more success, I feel great. And so that's why I love coaching. That's why I love creating the programs we create. It's one of the reasons that this book was put out. It's my first book that's a fiction book. It's why I used a pen name, John Akonda. And it was just so interesting how it came about and relates to going into and out of the mental health thing and dynamics in a society that relate to what's going on today in the world, but in a real soft way, in a gentle way, in a fun way, that's also very healing. So anyone who's going through any kind of struggle, this book, and there's an energy with the audio. It's an audio book format that adds to it. You could read it and get value from it, but there's a healing power in listening to the frequency of the words coming through that microphone. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody to, check that out. But that's the answer to the question. Is there such a joy in sharing the wisdom that has helped me?
Yeah. And I know that what you put out into this world, I already mentioned it earlier, but what you put out is definitely what you get back. And when you start out with one person and that person is able to impact 3, and then that 3 goes to 9 and it exponentially goes across this world, what do you think is going to happen? Everybody's going to have that sense of enlightenment or have that ideology where, okay, if I'm able to pay it forward, then it's really going to change everything that's been going on and taking place. So right now we're going to get into this exercise, Mark. I don't know what you might need from me. So you're going to take the lead on this one, and everybody watching this too, you can just fill in the blanks. I mean, for all the questions or the strategies that Mark is going to help us out with, you're more than welcome to throw in your own experiences. So this is going to be us as a collective. So Mark, this is what we're going to do. You take it away, and I'm here.
All right. So what we're going to start with, and you all might have your own situation, but Dano, without giving the details of what the conversation was, because I don't think that'll be supportive, but you had a situation where it sounds like it was quite disturbing for you. And so maybe just give a little context, again, without the details of the content, but a little context about what occurred. And and most importantly, include in there how you were experiencing it. What was going on for you during this altercation?
Yeah, so the other day I had a meeting with someone and it was completely the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I went into this meeting, having high hopes and trying to help somebody else out with, their projects or whatever it was that they wanted. And, I was going in, I was entering the doorway of respect. And whatever it was, that's always how I treat everything and everybody, with kindness and respect. And, the other person on the other end, it was through Zoom call as well, was just the total opposite end of that, just not listening, and they wanted to force their opinions and their facts and everything that had to do with the situation that we were talking about. So I just had to sit there, and basically I sat there and I took it, and it was super uncomfortable, and I just didn't enjoy the experience.
Okay. So there are a couple of points that I'm going to say, and we all have the ability to kind of tune in when we're working with somebody just peer to peer. And you can relate to this with your friends, or if you're in kind of a healing profession, you might have more deep experiences with it. But as you spoke, Dano, there were a couple hot spots, and I'll bet if we were to poll people, they could probably all guess those hot spots. One was when you said they were not listening. Okay, that seemed to be a real hot spot. So when you think of them not listening, how old do you feel?
Like a little kid.
A little kid. And an age?
If I had to give one out, maybe I don't know, 8. I think you're still there with us. Is everybody still there? I think he might have froze for a second, but I think we're all good. So we're just gonna let me know in the comments if everybody can still hear me or not. If we're still live and everything. Denise asks, "Words are powerful." Thank you. I appreciate that. The show is inspiring and enlightening to other people. Let me know how the stream is going on for you guys, because I'm still here and I can still see. Okay, that's what it is. All right. So we're still here, but if you guys didn't already see the picture from earlier, I'm just going to redistribute it onto the screen really quick. And when we were having this conversation, it was all about perspectives. So here we go, right here. Sorry, let me just take this comment off. This was at the beginning of the show, just in case you missed it. This picture is all about perspectives and the importance of, understanding other people's perspective, because as you see on one side of the screen, this gentleman believes that the figure on the floor is a number 6, and the other person thinks that it's a figure 9. But as Mark was saying, it takes a lot for a person just to. I want you to look at the picture and look at where they're standing. Exactly. Is it a 6 or a 9? It's up to the person. It's kind of like the glass half full, half empty. But I want you to look at where they're standing physically on the picture. Now, if you think that that's the only spot in the world that you should be standing, and that's the only idea or belief that you have, then you really need to take a look at why everybody has a different perspective. Everybody has their own information and life experience, so they're going to believe what they're going to believe. But if you look at the floor where they're standing, all they have to do is take a few steps to the left. And what happens when they take a few steps to the left? Oh, wow, it really doesn't look like what I thought it was. All right, let me take this off just so I can talk to you guys. So if they take a few steps to the left, it really doesn't look like what they thought that it was. And then as you work your way all the way down to the other side and to the other person's perspective, and then take a step in their shoes, you see that it's not what you thought it once was. And that's very important. Here it is. This is a powerful picture because depending on where you are, they are both right. And that's exactly the point that I want to make. If you think that you are 100% right about something and that there just can't be any other way and any other idea that opposes it, then I think I think we all need to take a long step back and look at ourselves in the third person just to see, has anybody ever played like the Sims game? You see that you can control what other people are doing, and you can see the different perspectives that they have. And Mark is back. But you really need to, because if you think that you are 100% right, it just doesn't make any sense. That is asinine and crazy by itself. because you're just completely disregarding the other side's experiences and their belief systems and ideas. I see Mark is back. Mark, give me a thumbs up if you are ready to come back on the stream. I think he's looking at everything. Let's see. Mark, you still there?
I can see you. I can't hear you though.
Really?
Hang on.
Let me know if everybody's still able to hear me. Here we are, so true. And let me know what your experience and what your ideas are about this picture as well, because I think it's very powerful right here. And if you have any comments, we have a welcome back, Mark. I don't even think he's back all the way yet, but that is A-OK. Denise, thank you for letting me know that. We can still hear us. I think we're all good, but.
Okay.
Oh, well, he just disappeared on that note, but let me know what you guys think about that as well. I think it's very, very important. And, I'm going to bring it back to you right now like this. Before earlier in the show, during the program, I said that I wasn't going to use this Life's Little Instruction book, but I'm actually going to take a second just to give Mark to get back to it. And I firmly thought that we weren't going to be able to use this book, but look, oh, here he is. He can hear me. All right. I was still going to, you know what? All right. This is more important. This is more important. Mark, you still there? Can you hear us?
I'm back. I apologize.
No, it's nothing that you can control. I just feel like when certain things happen that are out of our control, we should understand it and recognize it. So where we were was, there were a few hot spots that I mentioned to you.
There are a few hot spots, so I'm holding my. Let me just test something real quick. So I can't go sideways, right? That's not going to work.
No, it's not going to work, unfortunately.
Oh, actually, is that all right?
Yeah, you're still vertical, and we're all good.
All right, cool. That'll be a lot easier. Okay, so there's a few hot spots. So we were talking about not listening. You were saying you felt like you're about 8 years old, and let's go here. So there's an element of he forced, or this person forced. So that was something that you didn't like either. So you weren't being listened to, and then there was kind of this force energy that they were trying to push their agenda on you, right? Okay. So think of that time when you were in that young age, Dano, and how you were experiencing being listened to. What was the dynamic going on? And 8 years old, and you might think of even younger, of how you were or were not listened to.
It was frustrating because I thought maybe at that young age that I knew exactly what I know, and I wanted to convince you that that perspective is not 100% all the way. So it was pretty frustrating.
Okay. So the second part of this situation is that you were saying that when this person wasn't listening and then was pushing, you were sitting back and taking it. And so how was that when you were younger? Did you have to sit back and take it, like you didn't feel like you had a voice?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So right there, that's another hot spot. So now check in again. What memory comes up right now? You just had it with regard to that having to kind of take it.
The thing that I can think of is when you're in school and you have an argument with maybe another classmate, or there's a teacher that just says, "Oh, this is the way that you have to do it," and they don't even want to entertain your idea because they think that you're young and you don't know anything.
Okay. And the person you were interacting with, did they have kind of an authority position like that in your life, or were they older than you, or?
Yeah, they were older than me, yeah, but they weren't, I don't think they had that authority, and
Okay. So the dynamic then is, and this is key for everybody, if you think of a time in your life when you're kind of going through, some sort of conflict or some sort of struggle, it's to check in and recognize that, hey, if you're feeling the the experience outside of being in that optimal state, that feeling is in you, right? It may be resonated by the circumstance, but the feeling, the sensations are in you. And so if you look to have the other person take responsibility for your feelings, you miss the opportunity to actually heal what's going on inside you, because your situation, and in this particular case, Dano, is you've got a pattern of listening to people and wanting to be heard and wanting to be respectful. And so when you face someone who doesn't demonstrate the same level of respect, you've got another pattern, and that pattern is to listen and take it. So the dynamic that you have an opportunity to look at, and this is critical for your life going forward, is to understand that in order for you to fully mature into the man that you will become, and you're already a beautiful human being, but it's to let go of thinking that someone else can ever have agency over you.
Mm-hmm.
It's to let go that they have something more important. And just because they're louder or they say it with more confidence, that somehow the value of what they're saying is better or worth more than what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the opportunity that exists. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a real quick healing process that allows for you to just experience this a little differently. Okay.
All right, that works. Let's do it.
All right. So the first thing is to recognize that the breath is the critical part. We've heard about yoga and all kinds of different ways to breathe, but all you got to do is keep your breath moving throughout this. So if anyone listening or you, Dano, have tension, just notice your breath and keep the breath moving through this process. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
So that's step one. Step two is to say, and I'm going to give you some words to say. And when we train people, we teach people how to do this on their own. But the words that I'm going to invite you to say are, I let go of my past patterns.
I let go of my past patterns.
About listening.
About listening.
And respect.
And respect.
Okay, so now take a breath and just feel any kind of energy moving. There's a little bit of energy starting to move, and it's going to start to move even more when you say this next statement, okay?
All right, let's do it.
I ask for, and now you can insert, Dano, you can insert, God, universe, source, Jesus, whoever you want, right? You could just insert, kind of that loving source connection. So I ask for, and I'll use the word love, because love is kind of a universal thing that a lot of people can connect to. So I ask for love to show up in my life right now.
I ask for love to show up into my life right now.
And teach me what respect actually looks like.
And teach me what respect actually looks like.
Okay, now breathe. And it's starting to soften. Your energy is starting to move. The emotions are starting to settle down. Each time you do this, it's just opening a little bit more. So we're going to go one step further, okay?
All right.
I ask for the wisdom to know how to work with. I'll let you say that first. I ask for the wisdom to know how to work with.
I ask for the wisdom to learn how to work with.
People who disagree with me.
People who disagree with me.
Okay, and breathe into that. What sensations are going through your body right now?
I think like my hands are starting to get, I feel energy in my fingertips, and right in my brain, I just feel like a rush of cool energy, and my brain is starting to get stimulated.
Yeah. And what's going on is any resistance that you were holding on to, and let's say you held a glass of water for an hour, it's going to start to hurt, right? You're going to start to ache. If you held that for 3 days, it's going to ache even more. You're not going to be able, it's going to get really, really heavy. So what's happening is you're letting go of these things that you've been holding on to, and you're feeling this tingling sensation. It's sort of like, hey, there's something changing. There's some movement happening. There's a realization that you're saying yes to you. And now we're going to say one more thing, which is going to open up even more to this wisdom. And this last statement for now is, how is it that I can show up always
How is it that I can show up always
as my full expression of life,
as my full expression of life,
my true self,
my true self,
always?
always?
Now close your eyes for a minute and see if any images come up or any information.
What I see is a white heart.
A white heart?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay, cool. And what does that represent to you?
I think white, as we all know, represents purity. But I think it's to treat it more with not more of an analytical sense, but I think more of a loving sense to start to treat
All right.
it with, or passion.
And now watch, here's where the magic really comes. So that's awesome. And that pure heart is right where you're at. So now we're going to allow for the conversation that you had with that individual to come into the presence right now. And what I'd like you to do from that pure heart, I'd like you to actually speak to that person and say from this pure heart what it is that you most want to say right now, as if they're here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Wow. There's a flood of things that come up because it was an hour-long encounter. What I can say is, hey, listen, I really don't believe that you're listening to anything that I have to say. So I think, one, we should either postpone this conversation, or two, if you really want to get through to me, you need to find a different strategy.
Now, how does that feel, Dano?
It feels good.
And how different is that from what you did?
I think before I didn't really have I wouldn't say I didn't have courage. That wasn't the issue. I would say it just, I didn't feel that anything that I had to say would matter to this person. But when I say that new phrase, it hits them in a different way that maybe, okay, they can understand it from a better light.
So the cool thing about, and everybody watching, the cool thing about what just happened with Dano is, where did the wisdom come from? Because I didn't give it to him, right? Where did it come from? It came from you.
Yeah.
But it only came forward when you got out of the way all the past, drama, trauma, belief, experience, the stuff that was blocking the core of you, the optimal being, that optimal state, and showing up. And I knew you were there. When you saw a white heart, it's like, and that represented, purity. It's like, okay, you're right there. You're in it. And that's the place where you're going to be able to stay more and more consistently from here on out. And you'll get more and more aware when you're not in that state. And so the contrast is what teaches us. We can see like, oh, wait, I was off and I did it this way. Now I'm on. I'm talking about doing it this way. Watch, in your real life, Dano, some situation is going to occur where you're going to be able to put this into action. And it may not be that you say those same words, but it'll be from the same heart, the same purity. And it'll serve you to see the outcome and how different it was from this, the exchange that you just had recently.
Yeah, and I feel 100% different about that situation. I know it may seem, and I know for some non-believers out there, it was only maybe like a 10-minute activity, but when you can see the different perspectives, I know for me, from when I was first in that encounter to where I am right now, it really makes, wow, you just shifted my paradigm in 10 minutes. So I really do appreciate that. And now when it comes to your book, that makes me want to get it, of author of Prisoner of War, because wow. So Mark, we're at the end of the program for today. Where can people reach you if they want to find this book?
Well, if you go to journeysdream.org, which is our nonprofit, journeysdream.org has a couple of different dynamics taking place right now. One, not only can you get the book there, and by the way, you can pay whatever you like, so it's not like a fixed cost. You can go and pay, as much or little as you like, and you're going to get the same audiobook, high quality, and an ebook. But also something for some of the folks that are listening, you may be really interested in a mental health summit we have coming up October 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's all virtual. It's online. Again, a donation gets you in. I think it's a minimum $25 donation for that. But it's 3 days with 40 of the foremost thought leaders and experts in mental health today and integrative mental health. It's really just extraordinary. I wish I could get everybody interested in this topic to come to this. So share it with your friends and consider joining us. And you can get access to that site through Journey's Dream. The actual site's integrativementalhealthsummit.org. But Journey's Dream has a link right on the at the bottom of the homepage.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much for today. That was something that I needed, and hopefully everybody watching, I hope that you participated in that same activity, because I know going forward now where I need to approach different situations in that capacity. I know how I need to approach it. So, Mark, thank you so much for today. I still want to talk to you after the show is over, so don't go anywhere. Thank you to the Positivity Posse for tuning in, leaving all of your questions and comments. I really do appreciate it. And come back next week, because we have another great episode. And I just want to say, everything is a lesson or a blessing, and you already know that's the motto of the show. So thank you so much, Mark. I really do appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. Go into the weekend and go live to be in your maximum and your optimal state, according to Mark. So, Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Dano.
No problem.
See you, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody. See you guys later.